Siddharth, are you ready for today's show?
Hello everyone. Yep, let's do this.
Let's do it. So, starting off with our very first story, I'm sure this is something which everyone was expecting to happen in India. There's nothing new which is going on here. But Amazon and Reliance are fighting over IPL's media rights.
Yeah, so this
So,
is huge, okay? So, like, just for just for macro context, like Amazon and Reliance are already fighting over a lot of things, okay?
yeah,
So there's this huge battle when it comes to Future Group.
yep,
Reliance invested, and Amazon is crying foul over that
yep,
already, right?
yep.
And now both of these are going to take on Indian units of Sony Group and Walt Disney for an exclusive 5-year TV and digital broadcast right.
Wow.
So every year the IPL happens for 2 months. This is for a 5-year duration.
Yeah.
The cost could run up to almost 500 billion rupees. That's $6.7 billion.
Wow.
So
Dude, I
it's
think, I think what if I see NBA media rights
No, no. So cricket is the
contract
second
value?
biggest sport in the world. Okay, after football, it's cricket. All your NBA, your Super Bowl, your NFL can all take a back seat. Football comes first. IPL comes second. Okay, and if you're not in IPL,
So
you're
the thing
nowhere.
is, yeah, I get that, but the thing is, NBA earns about $8 billion a year, eight
Uh-huh.
billion dollars a year
Uh-huh.
from their media rights. How much
Right.
do you think this will go? And NBA is a very matured league. It's been there around for
Exactly.
like 70 years. IPL
Exactly.
has been there for like what, 12, 14 years? I don't know.
And this year alone, they'll be getting almost $7 billion for only for their media rights.
Fuck, that's just
Okay,
ridiculous.
that's insane.
Yeah.
So the match, the reach. Let's talk a little bit about the IPL's reach. Okay, the reach is almost 350 million viewers during the first half of the 2021 season.
Wow.
Okay, so and you have two big behemoths competing against each other for the pole position over here, and
Okay.
whoever wins this bid, it's moolah time for them. Okay, and it is very critical for Reliance's long-term plan because of the Geo platforms and its digital expansion, right?
Yep. Yep.
So
But then
Reliance would
look,
be
the thing is, Amazon is one of those few companies which, for whatever reason, across the globe, has figured out local law and local
exactly.
penetration as well as anyone. I think, other than China, there's no other country which Amazon has not penetrated well. Jeff Bezos has a very, very incredible management team across the globe. So even the Indian
Yep.
management team will be one of the best. I'm
Yep.
100% sure. And it'll be very interesting to see Reliance. Reliance is one of those players where no company, private, Indian or from America, has been able to even touch them.
Exactly.
Especially Reliance run by Mukesh Ambani. So
And
it'll be very,
now,
yeah.
yeah, given that, they'll be competing against Sony and Walt Disney also for of their Indian units also. So it's gonna be a good fight, like a proper courtroom, like a corporate boardroom battle or something. So it'll be nice to see. And all in all, good for the league more than anything else, because within 15 years, it's almost touching $7 billion just for media rights.
Yep, that's ridiculous. And NBA is like what? It's like a 70-year-old league.
Yeah.
They had the 75th anniversary like today, like yesterday night.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's gonna be very crazy. I hope, honestly speaking, I hope that Amazon wins this out. As a consumer, I've always been happier with their services than Reliance any day of the week.
Yeah, totally agreed. Let's
And
see.
this will be something different. Moving on to our next story. Now, Siddharth, we have spoken a lot about this,
Yep.
and I don't know, like, I want to get here, but I don't know how I'll get here, especially working in India. Probably have to choose better clients and figure stuff out. But Belgium is now moving to a 4 day work week, and this is some amazing news.
Yep.
That'll be law from now on in Belgium, basically.
Yeah, and like we're seeing this wave in all these Nordic countries, right?
Yep.
Belgium, I think Sweden started this,
Yep.
or some other country started it. Then Belgium has followed,
Yep.
and now I think even Netherlands has this. UAE has already announced a 4-day work week. They have,
So there's something interesting I want to point out here.
mhm.
Uh, they've actually not reduced the number of hours. What they
Yep,
have done is the number of hours, which was I think 7.5 to 8 hours a day for 5 days, is
yep,
now 9 hours a day for 4 days, basically. So it's about 3-4 hours difference, not more than that.
yep. And they're calling it the right to disconnect, which I think is nice.
Oh right, this was a very interesting story. So इसमें एक और चीज़ क्या था कि the bosses,
Hmm.
a lot of bosses were found texting their employees on
Yeah, they
Slack, on
can't do that
WhatsApp.
anymore.
We use a software called Basecamp, yeah.
Yeah,
So, and in fact, so Siddharth, I recently purchased a second phone.
right.
Uh, the main reason was that first phone was consuming so much of my, attention that now if I am going out somewhere or going for a walk, right, I just leave. The thing is, I want to have a phone with me because पैसा पेमेंट सब उसमें से होता है, उबर ओला वहाँ से बुक होता है.
But you don't want it to be the work phone.
But I don't want it to be the work phone
Yep.
exactly. So I actually, you must have seen that WhatsApp पे notification आया होगा कि XYZ has changed this number.
Exactly, yeah.
So that was because of that. So number को मैंने change किया. That will be my business phone. And whenever I want to disconnect, I'll just leave it here and I'll go. And one good thing which has sort of happened is कोई भी मेरे को आजकल टेलीफोन कॉल नहीं करता है, व्हाट्सएप पे ही मैसेज करता है, तो वो चलते रहेगा.
Exactly. And
So
so I think so basically this is a new wave, right? Like it's not just a small time thing. We've seen this happen with a lot of countries. So
right.
Scotland has launched this, Spain has launched it, Japan has launched it, and Japan launching it is a big surprise because those guys are the epitome of, work, 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 right? Like
Workaholics.
there's nobody who comes close to Japanese when it
Right.
comes to workaholics. And Iceland has announced it, UAE has announced it,
Yep.
and there is a congressman in the US who's introduced a 4-day work week bill. India has accepted and announced that the government services will work only for 4 days a week from now on. So I think this is huge. I think this firstly it does two things, right? It firstly uh, reinstates the importance of a work-life balance, reinstates the importance of mental health and how people shouldn't really, overwork themselves, or the whole, hustle culture and 100-hour work weeks. Uh,
So this is something I have been, pondering a
and
lot about these days,
yep.
especially for ourselves, Siddharth, where I have been telling you that I'm not happy with the way things are going. One of the main reason is we can earn more money if we onboard more clients, but when I onboard more clients, my work increases, and I don't
Yeah.
want that. And what I have seen happen is this is probably, I probably have a mild case of ADHD, Siddharth. What that means is, uh, when I say a mild case, I suddenly just lose track of whatever I'm doing, right?
Yep.
And like I'm doing something, and then next second, for whatever
I have
reason,
that too, dude. Like I
yeah,
have
yeah.
a
So I think
stronger than a mild case of
I have,
that.
so I have a mild case. I don't have a stronger than a mild case, but basically, I just lose track of whatever I was doing, right? I lose the train of thought. I lose that ability to focus on something, and I just have to stop doing everything and sit back. And one of the main reasons I have felt is there are days when I'm clocking in like 14, 15 hours in front of a screen, and then there are few days where I'm not able to sit for more than 2 hours.
Yep. Yep.
And it's really a strange feeling, and I became a lot more mindful about it very recently when I started noticing that my output has not been great or whatever it is. And I really think this This approach of having fewer hours to work in a week is extremely important because you hear about this a lot. I'm sure you've read books on this, and we'll also see if we can cover a book in the future. But they talk about deep work or intentional work.
Hmm.
And a lot of times, when you think about it, the work which you're doing is on autopilot. You're not really doing it with intention or not really thinking about what you're doing and how it's
Yeah.
impacting the bigger picture.
Most of it is grunt work, right? You have a lot of, like, the essence of most of your work, the creatives, the origins is only 1 or 2 hours a day. The rest of it is grunt.
Right, and what companies like this are doing, and I'm sure a lot of countries and companies will start realizing this, especially for specialized work.
Mm-hmm.
Say, for example, a programmer or a marketing person coming up with a marketing campaign.
Mm-hmm.
Not for all roles, not for the grunt roles, but for these specialized work roles, you cannot really put more than 20-30 hours a week. It's not possible.
Yep. Yep.
So I feel what they'll do is they'll try to build the structures around that, and then try to highlight those specialized work so that the output is so much better. One such example of a company which has done this occasionally uh, for some specific roles with a large company. Apple does this for their specialized software and design teams.
Yep. Yep.
They have very good work life balance, and I hope more and more companies replicate this, because I really wanted to think about it and break it down, Siddharth. But I don't think if you're not really intentional, specific, or are doing specialized work, you have place in the modern marketplace.
Yeah, you need to skill the fuck up. Otherwise, there's no point. And
Yeah.
only when you once you have the skills, and the skills need to match the right environment, right?
Yep.
Just having the skills will not create consistent performance. That
Yep.
is why we see so much attrition, right, in IT companies nowadays. Like,
Yep.
any Indian IT company you pick up, their number one problem is attrition.
Yep.
And I think this, I'm not saying this is a quick fix for everything, but I'm saying this is a step in the right direction, where a happier employee will only result in better work and more
Right.
productive work. And
Right.
if you give your employees another holiday in a week, in a 7-day week, you just get better, revitalized, rehabilitated employees on a Monday morning, and even they are excited. I'm not saying it's going to completely transform the work life balance of people, but it is a good change, is what I'm saying, and it's a welcome change. I think everybody should actually think of approaching this, taking this approach, and figuring out how to get work done within these 4 days.
Exactly. Allow your people to do more intentional work.
Yep. Yep.
Outsource a lot of stuff which is unnecessary, or I don't know, man. By like build systems, processes, softwares for this kind of stuff.
And like, it's possible now. You can build a SaaS to automate a lot of your grunt work, and
Yeah.
you can do that without knowing coding. You can use no code tools.
Exactly.
And plus, people are going to get replaced eventually, right? In the modern world, like, the robots are coming for you. You accept it or not.
Yeah.
Most middle management will get disrupted by code. Will get disrupted. Like, imagine tomorrow somebody writes a code to run Excel and work on Excel. Half of your middle management is gone,
Right.
right? What are you going to do about it? So people need to skill the fuck up, firstly, and secondly, yeah, it's better if employees are happy. You'll just get better work done.
Exactly.
All in all, good news.
I don't know when something like this will come to India. We're still a developing country,
It
but
has,
it
it has. That's what I'm saying.
it will
No,
come to India in a lot of specialized work. That's for sure.
no, it has come to India, Nikhil. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Uh, the government has announced a 4-day work week. I'm not sure how it's going to implement it or how it's going
Indian
to
government
happen.
has not announced.
Yeah, the Indian government
What are
wants.
you saying?
I'm not kidding. Google it. I don't know how they're going to implement it, because सरकारी अफसर लोग पहले ही कम काम करते हैं भाई.
Under the new rules, employees across India are likely to get 3 days leave each week.
Yeah.
What?
Yep. Yep.
In 22-23 financial year. What?
Yep. Yep.
Fuck.
So a generation of overworked Indians are gonna get 3 holidays a week now, and they will not know what the fuck to do.
Bro, I will not know what the fuck to do.
See, exactly now because there's a holiday, right? 3 days a week. Now people will have to spend time with family. They'll have to spend time with themselves. They'll
Yeah,
have to do leisure, right? And
exactly.
Indians don't like leisure. Indians don't like to sit around and do nothing, right?
Arey,
So
हाँ.
that is
It's a
going to be
very,
interesting, I
it's a
think.
very uncomfortable feeling.
Exactly. You feel guilty about it. Hey, why am I not doing something?
Okay.
So yeah, I
Let's
think
see.
it's good.
Moving on to our next story. Uh, moving on to our next story, which is green hydrogen policy. This is really interesting. Now, before you talk about the policy, Siddharth, I will say
Uh-huh.
this that Toyota had released a very interesting car called Mirai.
Right.
It's there available in the US,
Uh-huh.
and this car runs on the hydrogen power,
Right.
and it's a beautiful looking car. Like
Okay.
now, again, Siddharth, you're talking to someone who recently got into cars. Me and my wife purchased our first car.
Right. Right.
She primarily needed it for her architecture practice,
Right.
and I mean, I also wanted to learn it, so we're like, okay, let's go ahead. And after having learned how to drive the car, it's so I used to hear a lot of people say stuff like, it unlocks, it almost feels like you've unlocked a part of your mind where you can go anywhere. 400, 500, 600 kilometers, not like easily you can just take a car and go, and you don't really think about can I go or not. And one of the
Uh-huh.
main reasons is for the amazing, whenever I go out, right, even if there is no petrol in my car, I can fill petrol like this,
Yep.
do a full tank in like a heartbeat, and I can travel hundreds of kilometers. Now that feeling is incredible. This is the biggest knock on electric cars, which
Yep.
is the freedom I get when I buy a car, the freedom I get when I really uh, basically geography is no longer a challenge.
Uh-huh.
uh, I lose that freedom when I have an electric car.
Right.
You'll be like, what are you saying, Nikhil? Even if in India, or even if you go to US, even with Tesla, the fastest fast charger will take minimum an hour to charge your car up,
Right.
and it lasts for like Teslas, of course, last for like 500 plus kilometers,
Uh-huh.
but Indian electric cars last for 250 kilometers, which you may think is a lot, but is not. Like
It's not
on
really.
this national highway, 250 kilometers is like a 2 3 hour drive.
Yep.
That's too less.
Yep.
So why am I bringing all these things up when I'm talking about the green hydrogen policy? One of the alternative gases or alternative materials to fossil fuel, which a lot of people talk about, is, well, hydrogen,
Yep.
pure hydrogen. Now, pure hydrogen, if it were available easily, is
Uh-huh.
one of the most efficient fuel sources. So, what do I mean by that? In terms of per kg, the amount of energy you can generate from it, right? Hydrogen is incredibly efficient. The
Yep.
problem is generating fucking hydrogen is expensive and hard as fuck.
Yeah.
Storing and moving hydrogen is
Transmitting.
transporting hydrogen is fucking hard because of how volatile it is.
Yep.
That's the only reason why electric cars even have a chance.
Yep.
So Siddharth, can you tell us a bit more about the hydrogen policy?
Yeah, so okay, first of all, I want to address that the hydrogen policy that the government has come out is not really for cars or anything, right? It's basically for three industries: steel, fertilizers, and oil refining. So
Okay.
what the government is saying is that listen, we want you guys to produce hydrogen and use hydrogen as an energy source, as an
Okay.
alternative energy source. Their
Okay.
reasoning being that first of all, it is a very efficient source of energy,
Yep.
and the production of hydrogen also can be relied on renewable energy,
Yes.
right? So it is a win-win situation for both cases, wherein you don't need to first of all rely on fossil
So
fuels to generate energy to generate hydrogen, right?
Okay.
You
No,
can
so
rely on more renewable.
that's actually uh, so again, because I've done study on this and I was very curious on hydrogen cars. The generation of hydrogen fuel through renewable sources is actually really really hard.
It
Uh,
is. So that is why they've come up with the policy, right? So
okay,
so basically, green hydrogen is hydrogen gas produced through electrolysis of water.
okay,
Now, electrolysis is an energy intensive process, right? It splits
very
water molecule into hydrogen and oxygen.
yeah,
So the government is like, it's calling it green hydrogen because they're going to use renewable power to achieve this, right?
okay,
What the policy gives is 25 years of free power transmission from any renewable energy plants to set up supply for green hydrogen production. For example, if there is a renewable energy generator in Rajasthan, right, he
okay,
can supply his energy to a green hydrogen plant in Assam, and
okay,
they would not be required to pay any interstate transmission charges.
okay. So
So
that's
the
really good.
okay, so the move is likely it's going to make more commercial, more economical sense for key users of hydrogen and ammonia, which is basically oil refining, fertilizer, and steel sectors, right?
Okay.
Now the
I hope.
incentives.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry, please
So the
finish.
incentives are like it's a single portal for all clearances, right, for
Okay,
setting up green hydrogen production, as well as the facility for producers to bank on any surplus renewable energy generated with
okay.
discoms. So they can store it for 30 days and then use it as required.
So if more and more people actually end up setting this up, then
Exactly. So the idea is
I
to
think
for
I can probably well get one of these. Look at how sick the car looks, Siddharth.
oh yeah.
That's a hydrogen car. It looks
Okay.
sick, right?
Yeah, it looks insane.
So yeah, but if more and more people set it up, then that's amazing, dude. Because that will
Yeah.
actually open up hydrogen as a fuel source.
So exactly, that's what. So the basic idea behind this is good energy source, renewable energy source,
Okay,
doesn't require any fossil fuels. Yes, it is expensive. Yes, we don't have the necessary technology for electrolysis right now. That is the main hindrance, right? Once we achieve that, we can actually become a net exporter of green hydrogen and ammonia. So the policy is to first of all kickstart the industry in India so that people are aware that okay, there is such an industry and you can set up a green hydrogen plant and you can get energy from renewable sources. And secondly, to make India self-sufficient in hydrogen firstly, and secondly to start exporting. So that is the idea behind it, and I think it's a good step. I think we should keep exploring newer sources of energy which don't rely on fossil fuels, and this is a very good alternative. It just needs to be figured out how to make it more feasible, how to make it more
the physics
economical.
and the math of it needs to work out.
No, more than the physics and the maths, the economics need to work out. So
Okay,
the economics can work out only once we have advanced in technology at least 5 to 10 years. And I'll tell you the best part about this. So the government has set a target कि we should target कि $2 के अंदर हाइड्रोजन बनाना चाहिए अपने को एक यूनिट है ना. And Mukesh Ambani is like, no, we should set a target of $1. Why are we not ambitious enough? We should set a target of $1, and then we should start exporting. And Reliance has already committed to green energy, right? Renewable energy for almost 70 to 80% of its energy needs. And Reliance is going to push insanely hard into green hydrogen in the coming years. So I
makes
think this
sense.
is a space to watch out for if you're a budding entrepreneur who wants to get into renewable energy. Look up the hydrogen policy, read up on it, figure out how you can contribute.
Yeah,
I'm not saying tomorrow go and set up a green hydrogen plant. That's going to take a lot of money, capital, and resources.
yeah,
But try and become a service provider. Try and become someone who can help in transmission. Try and become someone who can connect renewable energy producers and green hydrogen producers. It's a sunrise sector, to be honest. And if you're thinking, you should get into this.
absolutely. Makes sense. Moving on, moving on to the next point, which is the next part of the video. 5 proposals worth $20.5 billion to set up chip and display fabrication units.
I can hear the happiness in your voice.
Wow. So, okay. Now let's start with, uh, you know,
So before I'll give you some time to actually think about this, but I want to say a few things.
go ahead.
Firstly, there are five proposals, right? And all these proposals have come from Indian companies in collaboration with foreign manufacturers to set up chip manufacturing units and display fabrication units in India. It is under the Semicon India product program, right? And the government has sought 76,000 crores ka support from these guys.
So, okay. Now, I have a couple of thoughts here, and I'd love to talk about this.
Yep.
Uh, this is the last mile in India's consumer electronic manufacturing journey.
Yep.
Okay. So, what do I mean by that? For the last, I don't know, like 7 8 years, Modi and the Modi government have aggressively tried. I think even before that, if I'm not wrong, Manmohan Singh's government also had tried this a lot, where they were trying to get silicon production in India.
Yep.
Now, the thing with silicon production, and not silicon production as in, like just silicon rubber or vape, but silicon wafers,
Yep.
processors, silicon chips. Silicon production is one of the hardest, if not, it's harder than fucking making medical devices. It's harder
Yep.
than, it's harder than even aerospace production
Mm-hmm.
because of the volume, scale, size, and scope. And one speck of dust,
Yep.
one speck, like, can you see there's one small speck? I don't think you can see it also.
No, it's
I have a
not
small
visible.
speck. One speck of dust can destroy silicon worth millions and millions of dollars. It's actually happened right now. So where are these chips used? First thing is production of RAM, memory, processors. These three things drive the world today.
Yep.
RAM, memory, and processors. You have RAM.
Everything you use has these things.
You
Any
have
electronic device.
fucking microwave ovens which need RAM, memory, and processors. You have cars which are, of course, cars these days are just toys on wheels. Like they're literally a
Yeah.
computer running on wheels.
Yeah.
I'm not even talking about self-driving cars. My car has a very interesting infotainment system, which has a lot of ability. Everything runs on this. And then you go higher end. Every single smartphone you use has RAM, processor, and chips.
Yep.
The highest end of smartphones, Apple's recent desktop chips, the M1 chips, are ingenious technology in terms of RAM, processor, and chips. Now, the problem here is this: two countries have had sort of a monopoly over here, and it's not China, by the way. So fuck you guys who thought it was China, but Taiwan and Korea. So Taiwan with the TSMC, the company TSMC, and Korea with, of course, Samsung and LG. These guys have display and chip production and all that.
Right.
Because it is such a super specialized field, it's extremely hard to start making it. Number one. Number two, a major issue with silicon or chip manufacturing is, even if, and we'll see if we can invite a guest for a future episode who has a much detailed understanding of this, but he told me he's worked in TSMC and Intel, by the way. So
Okay.
he told me that even if you set up a full world class chip production factory, you invest tens of billions of dollars and you do it,
Right.
the number of jobs it creates is very less,
Right.
because it's such a highly specialized process. Only machines can do it.
Okay.
So this has been a fight which has been going on. Taiwan had the vision in 1970s 80s to start investing it in, and that's why they are where they are right now with TSMC. Like TSMC, in my opinion, is an underrated beast
Right.
in terms of tech companies. It's much more valuable than fucking Facebook. Okay, so But TSMC makes Apple's chips, they makes AMD's chips. Intel is fucking gonna contract TSMC. Can you believe it? TSMC
Okay.
is a foundry, it's a contractor for Intel, and Intel has its own foundries, but they don't believe in their foundries to do as well as TSMC.
Okay.
So to give you perspective. Now, why am I telling you all this? I'm just trying to set up the context of how significant this is, and even with this proposal which is on the desk,
Mm-hmm.
I they've failed in the past already, Siddharth, with very similar plans. It's just not worked out.
Okay.
It's so difficult, even if you have the willpower and you have the money.
Mm-hmm.
It is such a specialized skill to fucking do it. The kind of employees you'll need, dude, you'll need to hire people whom you're paying like $50-100 million salary minimum
Oh, okay.
to figure this shit out. And I
Okay.
don't think anyone in India has that will. I'm not saying government. I'm saying private companies like fucking
Mm-hmm.
Tatas or Birlas. They they just don't have the will to figure this shit out. But if they do, it unlocks India's manufacturing, in my opinion.
Yep.
Now, why am I saying all this? When China figured out, so China being fucking China, they somehow, and Taiwan, because it's their territory, they somehow managed to get access to a lot of chip designs and chip manufacturing processes and all that. Once
Mm-hmm.
they figured out chip production and display production in country, that's what unlocked their smartphone manufacturing for Foxconn. And now, if India figures this out, I truly believe that this can really unlock manufacturing for a lot of other sectors. Right now,
So yeah,
automotive
they are
automotive
coming
sector.
in with Foxconn only, right?
I know, but see, you have to understand, Foxconn is, in the end of the day, an assembler. They are not
Right.
a hardcore manufacturer.
Right.
And for this, you need super specialized skill. The only way where I see a problem, or I see an issue or a situation, is where something like this can happen. I think India needs to go after Intel and offer them very lucrative deals, because Intel is a distressed company right now.
Okay.
They are getting fucked in the mobile space by TSMC, and they're getting fucked in the desktop and server space by AMD. And their
Right.
stock price is at an all-time low.
Mm-hmm.
So if a deal is worked out, I think Intel is the only other company across the globe who has the manufacturing know-how to fucking pull this off.
Right.
And other companies, see, Foxconn is an assembler. He may help you set up a plant, but all that, but he does not have the deep tech knowledge which is needed
Knowledge.
to pull this off. And this is something which so many people tend to ignore. We assume that, oh, manufacturing क्या है, facility तो लगाना है, घंटा.
That उसमें तो that is the first step.
That is like, especially for a super specialized field like this, आप आप मशीन का लेआउट ले लो, एग्जैक्ट जो मशीन टीएसएमसी ताइवान में बैठा है, सेम मशीन यहाँ पे लगाओ, फिर भी घंटा कुछ नहीं उखाड़ सकते आप.
Because you need those designers, you need those engineers who can figure out कि हाँ ये वाला चिप बनाना है.
और सिद्धार्थ, ये समझना है तेको, व्हेन आई कीप सेइंग राइट, इज सो स्पेशलाइज्ड, व्हाई they are talking about 28 nanometer and 56 nanometer chip production in this particular proposal.
28 nanometer to 65 nanometers, yeah.
That is very very easy. It's been
Yeah, that
going
is the
on for last
first.
25-30 years के पहले ही हो गया था ये. ताइवान TSMC अभी कहाँ पे है पता है? 3 nanometer chipset के production पे है.
Okay. So give context, no? Why
So
why is 3 nanometer better than 28 nanometer, or how? What?
So sure. So first, let me just explain why it is so hard. So all of you guys know that computers are basically circuits and circuits of different equations. So Siddharth, you remember we had learnt in electronics when we
Yep.
were in PUC, where
Yep.
1 plus 1 you can actually make a light out of it using some transistors by controlling
right.
the flow of current, and you can help it solve equations.
Yep.
So कंप्यूटर में क्या हो रहा है, जो प्रोग्राम आप देख रहे हो, इट्स बॉइल्ड डाउन टू 0 and 1, and then that 0 and 1 is pushed into transistors.
Right.
ठीक है. इसमें क्या होता है, ट्रांजिस्टर्स में all these transistors put together with multiple layers and all form a circuit, and
Okay.
this circuit is basically your CPU.
Okay.
Okay. Now these processors or these chips are laid out on a wafer thin 3 nanometer थिकनेस वाला सिलिकॉन वेफर. और जो
ओके.
सर्क्यूट्स हम बात करते हैं ना, जो अपन लोग डायोड सबसे करते थे,
हाँ.
वो डायोड का सर्क्यूट लिटरली वो सिलिकॉन के लेयर में 3 नैनोमीटर थिकनेस में बिलियंस एंड बिलियंस ऑफ ट्रांजिस्टर्स वहां पे कॉन्फ़िगर होता है.
ओके. तो उस अगर बिलियंस करना है तो 28 नैनोमीटर्स
सो
बेटर
आई एम
होगा ना
कमिंग टू
3
दैट.
नैनो.
आई एम कमिंग टू दैट.
ओके.
Now, you understood what a chip is, right? It's basically these billions and billions of these circuits laid
It's a
out.
collection of circuits laid out on a silicon wafer.
Exactly. Now, in electronics, this is just one of the explanation. There's a lot of ways for it, but one of the reasons why you want thinner. Uh, Number one, this particular measurement, 3 nanometer, 28 nanometer, it represents the thickness or the distance between transistor nodes or layers.
Okay.
Larger the thickness, hotter the chip becomes, harder it becomes to manage.
Thickness between two layers of circuits.
Transistor nodes. Yes, yes, yes.
Okay.
So it's always better to have lower and lower and smaller thicknesses. Plus, you have one wafer. So samajh, this is the size of your CPU. This is a small post-it, right? This is the size of your CPU. So if you have a 28 nanometer chip,
Okay.
you divide 28 by 3.
7.
10,
9.
10, almost 10.
Yeah.
So you have 10 times less transistors on the same CPU if you use a 28 nanometer chip versus a 3 nanometer chip.
Oh, okay.
You understood?
Right.
Because the number of transistors you can have reduces drastically, right?
हाँ.
So अभी जो ये समझो बना रहे प्रोसेसर,
वो किस में लगता है 28 नैनोमीटर वाले प्रोसेसर? कैलकुलेटर में लगते हैं क्या?
वॉच में कैलकुलेटर थोड़ा ज्यादा कम हो गया, थोड़े मेडिकल डिवाइसेस में, वॉच में, शायद इन सम एंट्री लेवल म्यूजिक
इनका
कंसोल्स.
अभी भी व्हाट आई एम आस्किंग इज मॉडर्न वर्ल्ड में एप्लीकेशंस है क्या 28 नैनोमीटर के आज भी?
है. सो इसमें क्या हुआ है, why there is an opportunity and why you are seeing some investment coming in now, or why there's even a chance here, is TSMC इन सबसे उठ गया है.
अच्छा, they've exited. They've been there.
They are like हमको
हो
ये
गया.
बकचोदी सपोर्ट करना ही नहीं है, ठीक है.
हाँ, they want the industry to move forward.
Dude, industry is moved forward. उनके पास उनका पूरा फाउंड्री का बुकिंग हो गया next 10 years के लिए.
Right.
And they have booked it for what? They have not booked it for the entry level processors. Fucking I don't want to make a calculator का chip. कितना देगा तू calculator chip के लिए पैसा?
Exactly.
100-200 रुपए देगा. Whereas
क्यों चाहिए?
नहीं,
Game
or
पे
even
ऐसा.
music console in a car, that also doesn't require that much processing.
हाँ.
But then an M1 Mac Mini, for the same wafer size, for the same amount of raw material, for the same amount of time it takes to produce, they get 8, 10, 15, 20 times the value. So TSMC has moved forward. And there is a gap here, temporarily, जहाँ पे जो थोड़े entry level workloads है, कार हो गया, म्यूजिक सिस्टम हो गया, कैलकुलेटर हो गया, स्मार्ट वॉच हो गया, for these you still have scope for a higher nanometer thickness के wafers.
Okay.
क्योंकि TSMC को घंटा सपोर्ट नहीं करना है, सैमसंग को भी घंटा सपोर्ट नहीं करना है, किसी को भी नहीं करना है. पुरानी चीज किसको बेचना है? Why would you want to invest money in supporting something which is getting outdated soon?
Also, and there is that law ना, किसका law है वो कि
Murphy's law.
हाँ, Murphy's law.
So that's another thing. Murphy's law is the end. ठीक है, I mean, there was just a theory he had that smartphone chips, computer processing power over time will exponentially reduce, essentially.
हाँ, नहीं, what exactly is it and explain that, no, कि कैसे.
So ये अभी हाँ, so coming to this, so now you have the same silicon wafer. इसमें समझ 65 नैनोमीटर का चिप है, so 65 नैनोमीटर 20 times. So 20 times more processing power in the same silicon wafer you can fit if you're using a 3 nanometer process. 20 times processing power is what? You just try to break it down. Like,
Yeah, you need, like, please break it down because it's not having the desired effect on me because I don't understand
So I'll
what
tell
the
you.
processing power is.
So for example, if this chip could do one calculation per minute.
Huh.
So Murphy's law stated that over time, this thing will do 1 into 2 to the power of 20 calculations.
Oh, so this is a general,
No,
generic
so
statement.
this is a theory which he made.
Acha.
Till 2011 or 12, the computer industry actually managed to keep it up, but after that, it stabilized to a large extent.
Oh, okay.
It's not been able to keep, but performance per watt has kept up. Now, that's like a whole other discussion. But a simple, so what do you mean by a compute or a calculation? Dude, one mathematical operation so much. So 20 years ago, one mathematical operation could be performed on the same chip. Now you can perform 2 to the power of 20 mathematical operations in a
Okay.
second.
Okay.
So
Right.
you're trying so this is where neural nets, AI, mathematical computation, all this shit comes in now because of the
Okay.
amount of compute you have.
Because the computing power has exponentially grown, is what you're saying. The
Exactly.
Okay.
Straight up brute force, boss. 2 to the power 20 times more computational power has come into chips
Right.
today.
Right.
तो अभी ऑटो मेकर्स और ये सब चूतिया मैन्युफैक्चरर्स बोलते हैं कि नहीं हमको छोटा चिप दो, हमको उतना एक्सपेंसिव नहीं चाहिए, पुराना दो. टीएसएमसी और सैमसंग बोला फक ऑफ. हमको वो नहीं सपोर्ट करने का है, हमको नया चिप बनाना है, वहां पे पैसा ज्यादा है और एंड कंज्यूमर ऑल्सो वांट्स मोर एंड मोर स्टफ. So automakers also are being dicks. They don't want to upgrade their CPUs and systems because
Right.
they don't want to invest in new software and new
Newer
hardware.
manufacturing lines and all of that.
Not manufacturing lines won't change that much, but supporting
Acha.
those new chips also you require a software team, right?
Huh, right.
Apple and Google are at the cutting edge. These manufacturers of car manufacturers are fuck all, okay? Very difficult, even including Toyota.
Right. Toyota more than anybody else, because Japanese people are insanely resistant to change.
And I think, there's an entire story of how they fucked over Nissan's CEO and who was not from Japan and all that stuff. We'll cover that later. But why am I telling you all this is अभी सस्ता चिप्स के लिए थोड़ा डिमांड है और इंडिया घुसने का कोशिश कर रहा है. मेरे को लगता है कि इसको लेवरेज करके इंडिया शुड. I'll tell you the fuck all part, Siddharth, and you'll be surprised by this. Of the top silicon engineers in the world, and I'm not making this shit up, almost 80% of them are Indians.
Then what? Why? Wait, you're saying 80% of the talent is Indian,
Yes.
but the major manufacturers are in Taiwan and
Yes.
Korea. So you're saying
Yes.
Indian engineers are sitting in Taiwan and Korea and designing chips.
Yes.
What the fuck? Why are they not here? Why?
क्योंकि बॉस पैसा इंडियन मैन्युफैक्चरर्स और इंडियन ब्रांड्स चूतिए है. टाटा
वो नहीं
महिंद्रा, हाँ ये सब चूतिए है. इनको आपको बस इनको रेडी बिजनेस देना है. इनसे ये सब काम नहीं होता है, समझ में भी नहीं आता है इन डोडोस को.
हाँ वो है कि see we've been a trading nation for the longest time. We haven't been innovators, and like as that's been a bone of contention. Like, but this is mind fucking, dude. If
I'm not
80%
joking.
of the talent is Indian,
Yeah.
why are we not anywhere in the chip race? Like we are not even close. अपना अभी प्रोडक्शन आएगा बोल के पॉलिसी आया है कि हाँ, लोग प्रपोजल भेज रहे हैं. What the fuck?
So
This is sad, man. This is just sad.
dude, and ये मैं क्या बोलूँ, देखो like how fucked up we are. एक स्पेशलाइज्ड इंजीनियर, एक टेक्निकल हेड है समझ सिलिकॉन प्रोडक्शन में कोई स्पेसिफिक डिजाइन का, हिज पे स्केल विल बी फकिंग 50-70 मिलियन डॉलर्स.
Oh.
और वाई? बिकॉज भाई वो जो स्किल बिल्ड किया है ना, वो तेरे को टेक्स्ट बुक में नहीं मिलेगा, वो तेरे को कोई सिखा नहीं सकता, वो खुद अपने तजुर्बे से बिल्ड किया है. और ये
Trial and error.
हाँ, और ये अपने इंडियन बिजनेस, like you have so much regard for some of these big guys. I lost regard and interest for them after I spoke to my friend who worked in Intel and TSMC. He was telling me कि जो विल, जो मनी चाहिए ये सेटअप करने के लिए, इंडिया में भर भर के पड़ा है. Jio can start one tomorrow as a side project. Tata can start one tomorrow as a side project. But these fuckers don't understand कि you need super specialized skills for this. You will have like the highest payroll. और इनको हायर नहीं करना है ऐसे लोगों को. तो क्यों आएगा भाई? I thank that fucker for not reducing his value and coming here. I was like,
that's true.
I understand.
But see, you also need to understand ना, the businesses respond to market dynamics, market incentives. अब इंडिया में अगर वो
Dude,
market
so
है नहीं,
how?
तो
What are you
कैसे
saying,
होगा?
dude? India has. See,
No,
this is
I'm
the part
saying,
where sometimes you got to commit to a vision. 1980
हाँ,
में, did you think that smartphones would become so big?
agreed. So tell me
So
one
your
industry
what?
where we have been path breakers or we have been leaders. We have never been those guys. We've always been traders and followers.
I
कि
know. So
कुछ
what I'm saying
there is
is,
a फूल प्रूफ कॉन्सेप्ट है ना. कोई इंडियंस कब एंटर करते हैं कोई भी मार्केट में कि प्रूव हो गया है कि ऐसा होता है कि हाँ 10 का चीज 12 में बिक रहा है और 10 साल से बिक रहा है. अपन उसके बाद एंटर करते हैं. अपन लोग क्या
so
करते हैं कि
that's why
10.
I feel, थोड़े बहुत जो इंडियन बड़े बड़े फैमिली के नेम वाले हैं, आई फील इट्स वेरी मच नॉट जस्टिफाइड द काइंड ऑफ ग्लोरिफिकेशन दे गेट, बिकॉज ओरिजिनल इनोवेटर नहीं है. क्या
हाँ
क्या
ये
दे हैड, the only leverage they had was capital leverage because they have a good family name. Banks would be ready to give them a lot of capital. उसको डिप्लॉय करके लो रिस्क इन्वेस्टमेंट में डाला है. वो बस आर्बिट्राज कर रहा है, कुछ इनोवेशन नहीं कर रहा है.
बट यही
Once,
होता है.
and when I mind got, when my mind got fucked, similar to your reaction, when I found out that 80% of silicon designers and silicon guys, people who make
Yeah,
design these chips
that
are
is
Indians,
that's just
I
sad.
was, I
That's
was,
just
I was like, chutiapa hai, this just talks about how all we Indians have learned to do is arbitrage.
true. But अपन है we're still a young nation, dude. अपना first priority has to be,
Bro,
you know,
एक सेकेंड,
industries, solid industries,
एक सेकेंड,
steel,
ये
railways,
ये बुलशिट एक्सक्यूज
roads.
इस चीज में तो मत देना, क्योंकि
अरे नहीं,
ताइवान भी बहुत यंग कंट्री है, हमसे यंग कंट्री है, ठीक है.
ताइवान कितना छोटा है भाई, मैं यही समझा रहा हूँ तेरे को कसम.
वो कुछ भी
ताइवान
बस,
is
सी दिस इज
Taiwan
द
is not.
प्रॉब्लम. ओके, आई डोंट.
No, like it is not an excuse. It is the reality. You need to understand. Taiwan is as big as Uttar Pradesh. इंडिया कितना बड़ा है, ठीक है, इतना जनता है. अपन जब आजाद हुआ ना, तो अपने को फर्स्ट खाना पीना का सॉर्ट करना था भाई.
सो
कि
मैं क्या बोल रहा हूँ,
कहाँ
आई
से
आई
मिलेगा.
आई एग्री विद
तो
दैट.
बेसिक इंडस्ट्रीज होता है यार
After the
इनिशियली.
IT revolution happened from
हाँ, दैट आई
2000 to
एग्री कि उसके बाद
2010,
तो अपने को वी शुड have
12
stepped on it.
साल हो गया, ठीक है.
Agreed, agreed.
क्या
And
बकचोदी चल रहा
what
है.
you said is like, what the fuck? अगर 80% engineers वो है,
हाँ,
what are we doing? Why
बस
why are we
अपन को,
not calling them back home? Like
अपन
पैसा
लोग
नहीं
को
दे रहा ना.
अपन लोग को मिनिमम 12% कमाने को नहीं मिल रहा है ना, तो कैपिटल डिप्लॉय करने को नहीं होता है. और मैं भी
हाँ,
उसमें हूँ बेंच.
yeah. Oh, and that is the problem with lack of innovation. That is the reason of lack of innovation and lack of R&D in India.
या,
Because the capital, first of all, capital is scarce है ना.
यस.
तुम सोचो यार, अपने को अगर ब्याज पे पैसा लेना है एज अ कैपिटलिस्ट, यू गेट इट एट मिनिमम 8% और 7%. नाउ कंपेयर दिस टू द वेस्ट. ओवर देयर यू गेट बिजनेस कैपिटल एट 3%. तो वहां पे ऑटोमेटिकली इंसेंटिव्स चेंज हो जाते हैं ना. वहां पे यू डोंट नीड टू जस्टिफाई योर इन्वेस्टमेंट इनटू R&D फॉर इन्वेस्टर्स, because even they know that the capital is cheap. Over here the capital itself is so expensive that you can't justify your investments in R&D in a $50 million paycheck to a scientist who will after 5 years maybe design a chip that is worth profiteering. That is a bet that we just can't afford to take as a country right now, at least.
Yeah, but all I'm saying is we shouldn't glorify a lot of Indian business families as being innovative and all that shit. They are not.
They're not
They're
innovative for
very
sure,
good,
but
very good
they're,
arbitrage players.
yeah, they're the first among equals at least in terms of arbitrage and trading. Dude, most like तेरे को एक genuinely interesting चीज बोलता हूँ, ठीक है. जो अभी business houses है ना, leading business houses, most of their origins are from being managing agencies for the British. for the longest time. They were glorified commission agents,
बस.
nothing else. So ठीक है, well, I'm what blew my mind is this 80% engineers, dude. I'm like, what the fuck? It's just sad.
I'll send you that article. I was blown away by this. I mean, so
Come to
many
think of,
people.
yeah, I mean, so like, and talent is the only thing that is required in this industry, right? Everything else is just capital. It's the talent that matters.
It's fucked up. So many
Yeah.
people from India work in Intel, TSMC. Most of them work in their R&D and design departments. It's just sad. But yeah,
Okay.
moving on to the next story, another fuck all story, uh, which is how Russia and Ukraine conflict might hit global markets. So Siddharth, this is all you.
Yeah. So let's just assume that Russia does it. Okay. Let's just first of all, for the sake of this news item, let's assume Russia goes for it. है ना?
Yeah, yeah.
If that happens,
Huh.
there are at least 5 to 6 places where things will get insanely disrupted. Okay, and the disruptions will be felt across global markets because of these 5 to 6 places. Now I'll tell you what these 5 to 6 places are. First of all, safe havens, tax havens. Okay. Now, most investors rush back uh, whenever a major risk event happens. Most investors rush back to bonds, right? Because they are the safest assets. And this time also, if a Russian invasion happens, inflation will hit multi-decade heights, interest rates will rise, and people will flock towards bonds. 10-year US 10-year 2%, German 10 years 0%. So in forex markets, Swiss euro France exchange rate is seen as the biggest indicator of geopolitical risk in the eurozone, right? Because the Swiss currency has been long viewed by investors as a very safe haven. This Switzerland currency, and it has hit its strongest level since May 2015 in late January this year. So all these safe havens will get affected, whether it is the Swiss currency, the exchange rates, or gold also, right? Or bonds. So all safe investments will get more and more investments. All riskier investments, वहां से पैसा निकल के सेफ इन्वेस्टमेंट्स में जाएगा, गोल्ड में पैसा जाएगा, बॉन्ड्स में जाएगा, और स्विस करेंसी इस इन सब में जाएगा. ठीक है. सेकेंडली, ग्रेन्स, स्पेशली वीट. जो ब्लैक सी है ना, रशिया और यूक्रेन का जो बॉर्डर है, वहां से, उस रीजन से ज्यादातर यूक्रेन, रशिया, कजाकिस्तान और रोमानिया, ये 4 मेजर एक्सपोर्टर है. और ये सब लोग अपना ग्रेन ब्लैक सी के पोर्ट से एक्सपोर्ट करते हैं. तो बिकॉज ऑफ दिस कॉन्फ्लिक्ट, ये जो ब्लैक सी का शिपिंग रूट है, ये डिसरप्ट हो सकता है ना. यूक्रेन इज दिस ईयर प्रोजेक्टेड टू बी थर्ड लार्जेस्ट एक्सपोर्टर ऑफ कॉर्न एंड फोर्थ लार्जेस्ट एक्सपोर्टर ऑफ व्हीट. ऑल ऑफ दैट विल गेट डिसरप्टेड. तो टॉप 3 जो प्रोड्यूसर्स है, या टॉप 5 6 जो प्रोड्यूसर्स है, उन सब में डिस्ट्रीब्यूट हो जाएगा यूक्रेन का जो ग्रेन सप्लाई था, बिकॉज यूक्रेन ऑब्वियसली विल नॉट बी एक्सपोर्टिंग एटलीस्ट दिस ईयर. Thirdly, natural gas and oil. Now, energy markets are to be hit if tensions turn into conflicts. Like Europe relies on Russia for around 35% of its natural gas, and natural gas is huge in Europe. Okay, it's not as big in India or in Asia, but in Europe and developed countries, it's huge. Most of it comes through pipelines across Belarus and
और
Poland.
उनको उनको आई थिंक उनका टेम्परेचर भी इतना लो होता है. नेचुरल गैस इज व्हाट दे यूज टू हीट अप स्टफ.
To heat up a lot of their homes and a lot of other things as well. So it's a mainstay of their energy needs, है ना. And अब अगर रशिया इन्वेड कर देता है यूक्रेन को, तो जो पाइपलाइन है जो रशिया से ऑल ओवर यूरोप सप्लाई करती है, दैट विल गेट डिसरप्टेड फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल. एंड इट्स एक्सपेक्टेड कि नेचुरल गैस एक्सपोर्ट्स विल बी सिग्निफिकेंटली रिड्यूस. ठीक है. क्योंकि यूक्रेन से होते हुए ही जा रहा है वो पाइपलाइन, तो सैंक्शंस तो होंगे ही. Also, oil markets will be affected because Ukraine moves Russian oil to Eastern European countries like Hungary and Czech Republic and all of that. So, if Ukraine's transit of Russian crude for the export was like, let's say, it was 12 million metric tons in 2021, है ना? तो वो अगर टेंशन्स राइज हो गए तो इंसेनली हाइक हो जाएगा. अभी $100 अ बैरल है, $150 भी नॉट सरप्राइजिंग. इट माइट go there, okay? And this will invariably affect global GDP growth to just 0.9%. This is a JP Morgan statement, है ना? तो ऑयल और नेचुरल गैस बेसिकली इंसेनली महंगा हो जाएगा. अभी $100 का क्रूड है, $150 हो जाएगा. इंडिया में तो अभी चुनाव चल रहे हैं, जब तक ठीक है. चुनाव जैसे ही खत्म होंगे ना, तो आप देखो पेट्रोल. एक वो मोहम्मद सोहेल करके एक कॉमेडियन है, वो उसका एक जोक है कि मैं कल पेट्रोल गिरवी रख के अपने माँ के गहने छुड़ा के लाया हूँ. तो वो सच भी हो सकता है, वो जोक भी नहीं रहेगा. Companies have a lot of exposure in Russia and their natural gas fields and oil fields, and Ukraine and their natural gas fields, right? British BP, it owns almost 20% in Rosneft, which is the largest oil exporter of Russia. Shell holds around some 28% in Russia's first LNG plant. US energy firm Exxon operates subsidiaries in Russia. Australia's banks, derived more 40% of its profit from a Russian subsidiary. So there is a lot of exposure to Russia when it comes to developed countries. None of them have left behind. Okay, whether it is the Dutch, the French, the Germans, the English, the Americans, all of them have some way or the other some exposure to Russia's oil and gas industry, you know, and whether they've given loans or bonds or whatever. Now there is a high risk, ठीक है, कि these loans will either be delayed. They'll obviously not be discontinued, but they'll be delayed, है ना? So this leaves all these guys in tandem, like in tandem, and they are just hanging up by a thin thread. कि अब होगा क्या? Nobody knows, है ना? So that is a huge risk because in the global world, we know that it's a very small world now. Boundaries have shrinked. Material crosses boundaries, borders. And Russia being such a huge player, everybody has exposure to it. Developing, or poor country does not matter. You, some way or the other, you depend on Russia. If the conflict happens, then Russia will close down all of its subsidiaries or investments or loans that it has taken from others and only concentrate on its defense. So all of that will get disrupted. So you can expect a rise in commodities, a rise in oil, a rise in safe bond investments, all these things. So be wary of the conflict, keep an eye on it, and just hope it doesn't happen. Because if it does, then we are in for hyperinflation, my friends, and that's not a rosy picture.
Very interesting. I've not thought about this.
Yeah, it's mad if you think of it. So yeah, that is what it is. Let's just hope it doesn't happen. But like by the looks of it, it's gonna happen because Biden
Why?
met Putin, and after the meeting, Biden is like he's attacking. He's
What?
not.
Seriously?
Yeah. This happened. You don't know this happened like
When?
yesterday or something. Putin and Biden met, and Putin was like, "नहीं मैं तो मारेगा."
Fuck.
So
Wow.
okay, wait. Biden and Putin agree in principle to Ukraine summit on condition of no invasion. Okay. Let's see. It's a oh
नहीं मार रहा है.
only on the condition of non-invasion.
नहीं यार, ये बाइडन, क्या उसको क्या पता है, भेंचो डिमेंटिया है, उसको क्या बोलेगा वो. पुतिन कुछ बोला भी होगा तो भी उसको समझ में नहीं आया होगा. पुतिन वुड बी लाइक मैं मारेगा, एंड बाइडन विल बी लाइक हे
So
पुतिन, हैव यू
yeah,
सीन दिस, दिस इज कॉल्ड एन आईफोन, लाइक.
this is
बुड्ढा है
this
भाई वो, ही इज फकिंग डिमेंटेड, वो क्या बात करेगा, जोक
this
बना
is
के
where
रखा
we
है.
are at.
And I think India as a country is very much favorable with Russia, right?
We are. So we might have to pick sides. We might because US is going to support Ukraine, and
Dude,
we might
so
have to pick sides.
you know why I think India will end up going Russia's route?
We have to. There's no other way. US अभी आया है, रशिया अपना स्टार्टिंग से चाइल्डहुड बडी है.
अरे और प्लस पुतिन का क्या पॉइंट है, वेरी सिमिलर टू कश्मीर एंड इंडिया. ऑफ कोर्स it was a separate country and all, but for them, like people like Gorbachev, the previous, big leader of Russia, and even Putin, they're actually all from Ukraine. It
Exactly,
has
they have this emotional
significant,
connect.
they have this significant emotional connect with Ukraine, and that's enough to for them to convince their people, to support this. कि जैसे इंडिया में कश्मीर का जो हुआ था ना, लाइक of course India's military was already, I mean Kashmir was already ours, they just annexed a particular law, but there would be the same sort of story which Russian government will be telling its people.
And
And
and they
yeah,
got the support. And more than anything, Putin is a romantic. Okay, he's like that guy. वो मीम आता है ना एक बंदे का कि प्रिया रिप्लाई कर लो वरना नस काट दूंगा. तो पुतिन वैसा इंसान है यूक्रेन को लेकर. ही इज वेरी इमोशनल अबाउट इट, है ना.
he's
एंड
from there, right?
हाँ,
If I'm
most
not
of
wrong,
Russia and Russia's culture
he's
comes
from
from
Ukraine.
Ukraine, है ना.
Yeah.
So Putin is very emotional that way about Ukraine, and he is like, इसको पहले तो वो समझ नहीं आ रहा था कि अलग क्यों है ना. उसने एक ऐसे लिखा था in which he calls the Soviet disintegration as the biggest catastrophe of the 20th century. Mind you, there are two world wars that happened in the 20th century. है ना. But according to Putin, the disintegration was the biggest catastrophe, and he's like, यूक्रेन का तो अलग होना बनता ही नहीं है, कैसे हो गया यूक्रेन अलग, बाकी सब हुए तो ठीक है. एंड अब जब यूक्रेन नेटो ज्वाइन करके ईयू ज्वाइन करने की बात कर रहा है तो पुतिन को
He would have
हजम नहीं हो
lost
रहा
his
है.
shit.
हाँ, he's like, ऐसे नहीं. So yeah, let's see what happens. As far as I think it's gonna happen to it.
Or China, just to fuck up with US, they will of course go with Russia. Fuck, dude, if you look about it from that front now, Russia is in a much better position than I would have thought. यूएस छोड़ के और
It
कोई
is.
कौन सा अच्छा पावर है उनके पास. ब्रिटिश
It
इकोनॉमी
is.
फक है, फ्रेंच और स्पेन तो बुड्ढे हो रहे हैं.
No,
कौन
and
है मेन, क्या है,
रशिया
रशिया
करेगा.
इंडिया के साथ है पक्का, चाइना रशिया के साथ होगा, साले कम्युनिस्ट पार्टी है दोनों. बचा कौन है सुपर पावर में in terms of sheer volume of population and military strength and all that?
What I'm interested in is how this will evolve into a world war. I'm more interested into that. कि conflict spread कैसे होगा ये.
Fuck, this is going to be very interesting. And
Good thing to
dude,
follow
and I
that.
honestly feel so previously now, because Britain was such a big player, and France was such a big player, and then America was also such a big player. So you would of course think कि World War One and World War Two would have gone the way of those guys. But this time China is like a behemoth. Russia तो पहले से है ही. A country like India will of course go with Russia, like उसका डाउट ही नहीं है. और आई एम श्योर पुतिन का डिप्लोमेट्स, रशिया का डिप्लोमेट्स विल टेल द सेम स्टोरी ऑफ कश्मीर टू इंडियन गवर्नमेंट, एंड दैट्स हाउ दे विल गो फॉर दैट. How the fuck does US even think about it? And they have a fucking demented person as their leader.
I think this is the best time to actually attack for Russia. Because,
I know.
like you said, there's nothing in
भाई
terms of
तू सोच.
US है
See,
ठीक
you
है.
say whatever you
There is
want about you say whatever shit you want about Trump, okay? वो बंदा थोड़ा पागल था, ठीक है? और पागल बंदे वॉर सिचुएशन में बहुत मुश्किल है प्रेडिक्ट करना. जो बाइडेन क्या तो उखाड़ेगा यार. He can't do a press conference, bro.
no. Apart from the whole Biden argument, also, like I don't see any allies who are powerful enough to support the US in the in that region,
Belt.
है
Yeah.
ना, in that belt. So
Yeah.
कि troops भेज दिया लड़ाई करने के लिए. हाँ, US equipment भेज देगा.
See, and even Germany, for that regard, right, doesn't have great diplomatic relations with US. You know that, right?
Yeah, most of the EU doesn't. That's what
Yeah,
I'm
they're
like.
like fuck you to US.
And the EU hates the US.
Yeah,
So they'd rather but even the EU also wants Ukraine to be independent. So
yeah.
it's a dichotomy. I don't know
I think
how
this
it's
is
gonna pan out.
why World War III may be hard to figure out because you'll be like, who is against who?
Like there's how do you
Abhi,
figure out two sides?
abhi like India and Russia are close. China and Russia are close. India, China are fucking enemies.
Against wait.
The fuck?
It's
I don't
a
know.
confusing situation, but it'll be
मैं वही बोल
interesting.
रहा हूँ ना तेरे को. सब लोग एक बंदा कोई न्यूक्लियर लॉन्च करेगा, सब लोग एक दूसरे को उड़ा देंगे, बस खत्म दुनिया.
Let's see.
So that was it, guys. Thank you so much for joining the business break. Siddharth, this was fun.
Yeah.
Catch you guys tomorrow.